What's up, everybody? This is Drew and Madison right here. Madison is currently frozen on my screen as I'm doing this intro, so that's pretty funny. But anyway, we are doing our first podcast today. Getting ready to talk about some Survivor, get some retrospective going on the first 20 years of Survivor. We've watched the whole way. I like to say I've watched since I'm out the womb. And I am excited for this. How are you feeling, Madison?
Good, you cut out a lot there, so I only understood probably about 40% of the words you said, but I did understand the question. I'm doing great. I'm having a great time. It might be a little loud outside my apartment. Who knows? We're in a weird spot right now. But yeah, we're having a good time. Really excited to do this. I have been watching, obviously, as long as you have, but don't remember nearly as much. So this will be interesting. I'm more of a new school person. You remember more of all of the game.
Yes.
More of all of the seasons. I'm still working on them.
I try and be a Survivor historian, but there's some seasons that I just know nothing about, really. Like, not much.
Yeah.
Like, Amazon, I need to rewatch. That's the season I need to rewatch.
We should watch Amazon together.
Let's do it. So, we're going to start this up by doing a trivia question for Madison. This is how we're going to start our podcast. I will give her a trivia question. Next time, she'll give me one, and we'll just alternate that way. So, the question of today is, out of all the female winners in Survivor history, only 2 of the 14 have led their season in confessionals. Who are the 2?
Oh, God. So, let's start with just who are the possibilities. I think that Parvati is definitely a good possibility. I think that Kim is a big possibility, just because of how dominant her win was, but she wasn't the biggest personality on that season, so I'm not sure with her. Let's go through. I don't think it was Tina because Colby existed. Visepia, I haven't watched Marquesas, but I'm pretty confident it's not Visepia. I don't think it was Jenna because Rob Sesternino. It wasn't Sandra in Pearl Islands, and it wasn't Amber in All Stars. It definitely wasn't Danny because that was her entire strategy, was to not talk. 15, 16, yeah, Parvati it could be.
Man, you're really thinking hard about this. You want to get this.
I don't remember who all of them are. I'm really just going through all of them to see who all the winners are. It's not Natalie White. It's not Sandra in Heroes versus Villains either.
By the way, I'm currently watching Samoa right now, and the Natalie White edit is so... Like, she's not even part of the season, it feels like. It's really so bad. She makes good plays, which is what sucks, because you don't get to see any of it.
Yeah. It's not Denise. It's not...
Your thought is so deep.
Yeah, it could have been Natalie Anderson. She's a possibility. So I think my top 2 right now are Parvati and Natalie. It's not Michelle. And I don't think it's Sarah either. I'm going to go with Parvati and Natalie. Those are my picks.
All right, well, you're wrong. Parvati was the number 4 biggest confessional getter in Micronesia, behind Sari, Eric, and Amanda. She was 1 behind Amanda, so They were really close.
I could have seen Sari and Eric being more Sari. Eric's a little bit of a surprise, but... Mm-hmm.
Well, Eric was the only fan that really made it far, besides Natalie Bolton, who was already getting carried by the other ones. Yeah. So, then Natalie was 3rd, I believe. I believe she was behind John Mish, who was the leader, and I think the other one was Keith. That was ahead of her. And the answer to this one is Kim Spradlin and Sarah Lacina.
Really? Sarah was the leader in confessionals and Game Changers?
Yes. She was.
I would have never guessed that. Never. Kim was one of my ideas, though. I thought it could have been Kim. I thought that Troyzan might have had more confessionals than she did, because he lasted for a while and was a much bigger character.
I think Troyzan didn't last as long as you thought. I think he was 7th or 8th place, so he didn't last nearly as long. And you got to keep in mind the finale is a big booster for confessionals.
That's a fair point. I was like, no, I know he got voted out pre-finale, but he got voted out like right before the finale.
Yes.
Which is why I thought he could have competed, but that's fair. And also, no, that's a good point because everyone in the finale was kind of useless of One World. So it was basically probably all Cam.
Yes. I have to look at the chart to see that. I wonder if Troyzan was leading before the finale.
That would be interesting to see.
Because it's close. I think they're 8 confessionals apart in terms of total of the season.
I could see Troyzan having more than her before the finale then.
Mm-hmm.
I could see her getting more than 8 confessionals in that one finale.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our trivia question for the day. It looks like we're ready to get onto the list. And Madison, what's your number 20?
My number 20. Okay. I don't have them written in order, so it might take me a second to find them. Okay. Yeah. So my number 20, this was kind of an oddball pick. But I chose as just a Survivor moment that I found very entertaining. A lot of mine are more entertaining versus like move the game forward. Wendell's voting confessional in Ghost Island when he votes for Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. 10 out of 10. One of the best voting confessionals of all time. Really funny. Made me laugh a lot. I felt it was a great way to start my list.
I think that is a good moment. It was on my short list. It didn't necessarily make my list. I do love Wendell. I'm a big Wendell fan. I've loved even seeing what he's done, especially recently, to talk about social injustice. I'm a big Wendell stan right here. However, I just thought that there were better character pieces. This was probably Wendell's big character piece.
Yeah.
And this was the thing that made me love him in Survivor, because I just didn't expect it, and especially in modern Survivor, you don't see many voting confessionals anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I liked it a lot. I definitely like that pick. So you just liked it for the epicness, basically, and you just thought it was funny?
It was so it was so funny. I really enjoy voting confessionals generally, and like you said, they don't really happen anymore. And even if they happen, they're a little bit more like spiteful. And Wendell's was just like, "You're annoying. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here.
You can't rap."
Exactly. Like, which is funny too. When he goes back and does Chris's rap. There's video footage of him doing Chris's rap.
Didn't he do it at Ponderosa after Winners at War?
There was that. Spoiler alert! That's one of my honorable mentions. Is the callback from Chris in Ponderosa doing that rap, and then Wendell walking into Winners at War Ponderosa singing that rap with Adam. Adam was singing it with him. Great callback.
The super fans.
So I didn't include them in my actual list.
Fair enough. All right, so you ready for my number 20?
Yes, I am.
All right. My number 20 is Russell's idol play at the final 11 of Survivor Samoa. I had to remember if it was 11 or not. I'm watching Samoa right now, and I just saw that, and I just had to remember that in my head. That's bad. But the thing that I liked about this moment was that we had seen power flips in Survivor before, and we have seen the impact of an idol. We saw it especially with people like Yule and the way he was able to flip Penner and Cook Islands. However, we haven't really seen an idol play that was so flashy to that point besides Amanda's in Micronesia. But Amanda's was a lot later in the game, and it was clear that she was going to save herself. And she didn't really have an uphill battle. She was kind of easygoing to get towards the end at that point. They just tried to blindside her at one point, and she said, no, no, no. However, something like Russell, he finds the idol without a clue again for the second time in Survivor history, followed by himself with the past idol he had just played at the previous Tribal Council. Foa is down 7-4, and this idol play was so big because they knew they had Shambo to pull from Galoo if they got to 6-4. And then he pulls it out, and nobody's expecting it at all. And the votes just go, Russell does not count, Russell does not count, Russell does not count. And it keeps on going, and you're just wondering who's going home at this point from Galoo. I had never seen anything like it to that point, and it just goes to show why Russell Hantz was one of the biggest game changers in Survivor history.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the reason that's not on my list is I haven't rewatched Samoa, and I don't really remember watching it when it aired. So I felt it, like, there were some moments that I've watched, like, clips of on YouTube that I really enjoy, but if I don't remember watching the season as a whole, I didn't include them. That probably wouldn't have been on my short list just because it's not even on, like, YouTube very much. Like, it's not in all those, like, Survivor compilation videos all across YouTube. Because it's, like, you need the context for it to be really impressive. But I do agree with you in the sense of, like, Amanda's idol play. I think that Russell's idol play is definitely a lot flashier. A lot of the flashiness of her move almost was because of the editors and the way the editors created that episode and created that scene. And intentionally left the viewers out. I don't think if they would have told us that she had the idol, it would have been as epic.
Yes. I agree with that completely. And I just don't think we had seen the impact of the newer idol in the game. Because, of course, Yule had the super idol, so that was a lot different. We haven't seen the idol be so impactful, especially close to after the merge, in making a power flip happen. And this was really the first time I felt we saw it. And it was something that made me fall in love with the mechanic of the hidden immunity idol. And I liked it before, but I loved it because of this.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think this also shows the differences in what our lists are going to be. They're going to be very different. I'm more of a historian of the game. You're more of I like the entertainment of Survivor. I'm starting to get more into new school, but I just want to laugh.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a lot more of what especially when it comes to, like, greatest moments. When my mind thinks of greatest moments, it's always being drawn to entertainment, as opposed to strategy. I think if it were to be, like, top 10 biggest moves or something like that, our list would be a lot more similar, because I do like to pay attention to the strategy. It's not just what I think of as moments.
Yes. For sure, but this is just commemoration. We're just being happy about everything that's happened. And these aren't necessarily the ones that I feel are the best moves. Exactly. I just think they were the most fun to watch. Some of them aren't even moves. Some of these are just very different things on my list. But I'm curious to see what your list has to entail for sure.
Yeah. We won't have a whole ton of overlap, I think.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But that makes it better. More talking.
Oh, for sure.
So what do we got at 19, Madison?
Yeah, so my 19 definitely plays into the more of the, like, editing and the scene building. And it's the scene in Millennials versus Gen X where they all talk about the fact that Jay has an idol. And they go through, and it's just, like, all those clips of just the entire merge tribe being like, yes, I can confirm that Jay has an idol. Oh, did you hear that Jay has an idol? And they showed, like, 17 different clips of just the information spreading across camp. And it is just editing gold. It is beautiful. It's like, it's the first version of the Nick walking into other people's conversations. It needs a lot more for the game, too. Yeah. And it advances the strategy in the sense that, like, at the beginning, Zeke's like, the only thing more powerful than an idol is knowing where the idol is. And we're going to take away Jay's power by telling everyone where the idol is.
Yeah, that's definitely a good moment. I definitely know Millennials vs. Gen X was a season that really roped you back into the show, I feel. Yeah. And it was a season you really enjoyed. I really enjoy MVGX as well. I rewatched MVGX, I think, 3-4 months ago, and I remember that scene. I'm not sure if it's one that stuck out to me the way it did you, But I definitely remember the editing of it, and it was definitely a fun string of just seeing the single message spread like wildfire. Because we don't really see that much in Survivor. We'll see one person tell another person, then it's just assumed that other people will know. But you don't see it just like, Jay has the idol, Jay has the idol, Jay has the idol.
I just love moments where the editors are very clearly having a whole ton of fun.
Yes.
And that is one of them, and it's one of the most consequential ones. And Millennials versus Gen X was also one of the first seasons that the editors were really kind of regularly doing these more fun segments that were still around gameplay. Like Amanda, as we talked about back in Micronesia, that was kind of one of the first examples of the editors really doing something fun to tell you about the game.
Yeah.
And then they didn't really do it a lot, but they've really started doing that a lot more recently. And it's a lot more interesting and a better way of storytelling. And I felt like that moment brought it back into the forefront of Survivor editing.
I agree with that. And Survivor's just a story after all, right?
You're number 19 now. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so this is one that I think might have some overlap, actually.
Okay.
I went with what I think was one of my favorite comedic character pieces throughout the entirety of Survivor. And I think this one is probably the one that sticks out to me as just such a character piece that defined an iconic character of Survivor in my eyes. And that's Keith Nail. And for number 19, I picked Stick to the Plan.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I thought about including a lot of Keith Nail in my list, but did not include any Keith Nail. Just because it was really hard to nail it down. No pun intended.
Nice.
Yeah. It was really hard to pin it down to just one moment for Keith. If it were to be like top 10 like best characters, maybe not top 10, top 20 best characters I could consider putting Keith on. Yeah. But just one moment, I almost put the immunity challenge where he drove that like tuk-tuk or whatever it's called.
Oh, after the reward? Yeah.
Yeah! Like that reward challenge, great moment too. I like that as a character moment better than Stick to the Plan. But Stick to the Plan, great character moment, also very funny. I do understand why it's on your list. It is fantastic.
Well, I think that this is the one that I would say is more of a Keith Nail character moment, just because what I think about with Keith Nail is this dad who doesn't really know about the game, gets dragged along by his son who's a fan, but he's really the entertaining one, and you don't get many people in Survivor who don't know a lick about the game. Keith does not really know about Survivor, and it shows. But it's great, and we don't get many people cast like that anymore. But whenever Keith Nail's on my TV screen, I'm having a good time.
Agreed. I 100% agree. I can always use more Keith Nail. He's the perfect comedic relief for, honestly, any season of Survivor. He's going to give you comedy whenever he's around. Mm-hmm. And he's never going to grow out of that comedy either. Unlike some people who may have been really funny in the past, maybe if they come back to Survivor, they're going to take themselves a little bit more seriously. I think Coach is a great example of that. As Coach in Tokensheens, hilarious.
Yes.
So funny. But then he starts to get more self-aware, and he starts to kind of censor himself a little bit and stop being as funny. Mm-hmm. But Keith Nail is never going to censor himself.
No.
He is always going to be entertainment.
I mean, just imagine if that happened in Winners at War, just for an example. Just imagine if someone turns over to Tony and says, I say stick to the plan. It's just, you wouldn't see that.
I think the closest thing was Sophie being like, okay, people, we're going to walk over here and decide what the plan is. Come on over here. Which is weird that there's almost an unequivalent strategy happening in Winners at War to Keith Nail stick to the plan. Like, that's wild. Who would have guessed?
True. All right, what do you got at 18, actually? We're at 18. Wow.
18. Another great character moment. It is from David versus Goliath. Another recent season. It is the Angelina, Mike, and Nick reward where they're also looking for the idol with the ladder.
Yes.
The 100-foot ladder or whatever it was. And just Mike with the wine glass just stumbling about, just being like, he like hits a tree branch and just like turns to it and goes, bitch, like just stuff like that. Like and it builds Angelina's character like crazy. Nick is just there.
He's always there. He's everywhere.
That's Nick as a character. He's always there. And it grows with age too. Every time I watch it, it just gets funnier, and it's good. It's so good.
Yes, it definitely is good. Now, you want to talk about modern characters in Survivor? Angelina, she got to be at the top of the list. She's up there at least, and that might be her best character moment of the season. It's close for me between that and one of my shortlist items, which was Jacket Gate.
Oh,
but
yeah, Jacket Gate.
I think the persistence of Angelina was something that I love about this moment, because you hear her in all her confessionals during this. It's just, women don't find idols on Survivor, which is true. We want more women to find idols on Survivor. We want more women to win Survivor. Let's be real here. And I think it's coming soon. I wanted it to happen in Winners at War. Didn't happen. Well, actually, I wanted Tony to win, but if not Tony, I wanted a woman to win.
Agree. 100%.
But, yeah, I just think the persistence was something that stuck out to me about this moment, too, on the reward, where Angelina is just, she's not quitting. I mean, it's a 100-foot ladder, and it's in this rock wall, and she's going to do whatever it takes just to grab that idol, even if it means getting help from other people, getting a 100-foot ladder. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, she's got it. She is going to get it. She's not going to let anyone stop her, and she is going to exaggerate the entire time, too.
Yes.
And make everything a big deal. And that is Angelina's character. She makes everything into a bigger deal than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And I am here for it. That is reality TV gold.
Yes. Totally agree.
Yeah. Now, what's your number 18?
My number 18 goes all the way back to Survivor Panama, Exile Island. And it is the Courtney 3-2-1 blindside at the final 6 of Survivor Panama. I think that this was a really shocking revelation for a lot of people, that you didn't need to vote with the majority to get the vote done. As long as you have that plurality, it's going to happen. It happened before. I mean, you can go all the way back and say, oh, hey, in Survivor Borneo, at the merge boot, there was a plurality vote. Well, it wasn't like this. This plurality vote was so calculated, and it was the defining gameplay moment from Queen herself, Sari Fields. And I just felt like this was something so ahead of its time. You'll see a lot of plurality votes nowadays when people are really being smart with it and finding the way just to get that extra vote for a blindside. But this was the first of it, and it worked so well. And it was so unexpected. And that's why I loved it.
I think that's a great pick. I haven't seen Panama, which is why it's not on my list. I need to watch it. I know. I gotta finish Australia first. That's what I'm watching right now. I'm just about to hit the merge in Australian Outback. But I think if I had watched Panama, something from Panama would be on my list, because I know a lot of moments from Panama that are amazing moments, but I haven't watched the season, so I didn't want to include them.
Because of Shane Powers, you'll love that season.
It's right up my alley. I just love the dysfunction of it all. Mm-hmm. I gotta watch it. I got a lot to do. We'll get there.
You do. And at the final 6, you'll be in for a treat.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Very excited.
So what do you have at number 17?
17. So, this is my first more strategic moment. Very exciting. I have the merge boot in Cagayan. I think that's it's a properly rated, fantastic tribal council. It's the split vote. It's LJ and Tony playing their idols for each other. It's them all clapping when they get the vote right, and everyone being mad at Cass. And Sarah being, like, really hurt. Just, like, everything about it is... It's what sets the ball rolling on Kageon. Like, the pre-merge of Kageon is really great. It's got a ton of really fun characters, but it very well could have gone into a season that was more character-focused instead of strategy-focused. And It became the beautiful monster of a ton of great characters and really great strategy as well. And this boot, I think, really emphasizes both of those things. You get a lot of really great character moments, and it's also a really big strategic moment.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I'm just gonna have a little spoiler alert right here. That's on my list.
We'll had a feeling it would be.
And I don't want to say too much on it before I get to where it is on my list. However, I will say that you really brought up some really good points about why I love this moment as well. And it was one of the defining moments of this season that it was transformative for the season as well. And I just like to think about that boot and think about what if Cass didn't flip? And what the season could have been if Cass didn't flip. Is Spencer the winner? Is Tasha the winner? And is Sarah the winner? It could be any one of them, really. I think those three would be the top 3 winner candidates at that point. I don't see Jeremiah winning.
There's no way Jeremiah wins.
No, I don't see
Morgan. There's no
winning.
way Morgan wins.
Yeah. So, I love that moment as well. I'm trying to withhold it just so I can talk about it later. But very good choice. Just too low.
Mine's more about characters, you remember. And also, I really have no reason for any of these things being in the order they are. In an hour, I could change my mind. Who knows? The same things will probably be on the list, but I don't know where they'll be. But let's hear your number 17 now.
All right. Going back to a season we talked about earlier, Millennials versus Gen X. My number 17 moment is Jay's fake idol play at the Final 5.
I almost put this on my list.
I think that this moment, it had comedy, it had a big gameplay moment, it had a character moment for Jay. It was, I believe, the best fake idol play in Survivor history. I mean, you've got other great moments. I loved when Randy plays his fake idol in Gabon and everyone's just laughing at him. I loved when the fucking stick was played.
Oh my god, fucking stick.
But this one, it had everything. It was a well-made idol, and Jay had no reason not to believe it. When he was stuck into a coconut, it was perfectly hidden. It was painted. Oh. Everything about David on that was so wonderful. It really showed why David was such a good player that season and why he was playing so hard. It was David in a nutshell. And then you get to the Tribal Council. Jay, that cocky guy, goes up there, plays the idol, says, "Here you go, Jeff. Suck at everyone else. I'm going to the Final 4. I'm going to make the Final 3. I'm going to win this game. Just wait." And then Jeff says it's not a hidden immunity idol, and Jay's face goes, "Whoo!"
Oh.
That one clip right there, where Jay's face is moving, sells it all for me, and it was an amazing moment.
I agree. It's in definitely top 3 fake idol moments of all time.
Yes,
definitely. I don't know if it will. I don't think anyone can ever be the fucking stick. The stick will always be the best fake idol moment. It can't get better than that because it's so stupid. Mm-hmm. But this one, I agree with you 100% that it shows David really well as a character. There needs to be more reaction GIFs coming out of that season that are used more often. That J face could be used all the time
Yes.
in every aspect of life. People are sleeping on Survivor GIFs. Let me just say.
Even though I say GIFs, I completely agree. I think that there need to be more out there. GIF makers, get on it. Keep going.
It's more about the people using them. There's plenty of Survivor GIFs out there. There's a whole Twitter account that just makes Survivor GIFs. That's his whole thing.
Well, we can make even more. We could use even more. I just think that the only people that are really using them are the hardcore Survivor community, like us.
It's so wrong. One of these has to go viral, like the Davon meme from Big Brother. We're walking out, throwing open the door. Survivor's got to have a mainstream meme at some point.
Because even Amazing Race has had one with the watermelon.
I know. It's ridiculous. Survivor's late to the game. But back to this specific moment. To not get off of the trail. This also really set off a new inspiration and a new chain of creating fake idols. It started a new trend in modern Survivor. Which I think is really exciting. Even if the fake idol play itself isn't exciting, a lot of times the creation of the fake idol or the finding of the fake idol is the fun part. Like when Rick Devens made the 2 fake idols in
Edge of Extinction.
That was a great scene. It didn't lead up to anything. Like both of them were pretty confident they were fake idols. Why would there be 2 idols at the final 5? That's ridiculous. Like they were not that stupid, but they were also not that stupid where they weren't gonna play the idols. And that's the thing. Like, I don't blame Jay for playing it and thinking it was a real idol. It looked hella real, and you might as well play it. What do you have to lose? You're gonna go home either way. Play the idol. Do it.
The only reason I would ever flaw Jay is he had an idol in the past. Don't you think it would look similar?
Yeah, that's fair. Although now the trend in Survivor is that they don't look similar. The idols look different all the time, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But in 33, that is a definite way to fault him.
Yes.
But
it's a minor fault. It's a nitpick.
Very nitpicky, but great move by David too. David, people appreciate him as a good strategist, but people don't talk about David as often as they should. David Wright does deserve more recognition for just how great of a game player he is.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
100%.
So what do you have at number 16?
So, number 16, to be fair, to fill up my list of 20, I was starting to grasp at straws a little bit, because 20 moments, it's a lot. I haven't watched as many seasons as you have, or at least watched as many seasons that I remember as you have.
Yes.
But I felt this was a great moment, and it's similar to the honorable mention I talked about earlier, and that it's a callback. And it's that Michelle kicks the puzzle again in Winners at War. One, was super happy personally that she won that immunity challenge, because I was really enjoying Michelle last season. I wanted to see more of her. I wanted to see her get to the end. And her kicking the puzzle the first time, not that exciting of a moment. The fact that she kicked it the second time and made it a full circle callback moment, it hit me, and it was very entertaining, and it was smart from her to know from a TV standpoint that was going to play really well for Survivor fans. And just, I really enjoyed that moment. Is it rated too high? Probably. Is it? It's on my list, though. And that's what it is.
And that's what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the question I have for you at this point is, this is one thing that I think about with this puzzle kick. You said the first time she did it, second time she did it, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, do you think that the fact that we, as a fan base generally, we weren't rooting for Michelle and Cal Rom, but we were rooting for Michelle in Winners at War, do you think that plays a big part in it?
Not personally. It might play a part in it for other people, but I think that what was so exciting about it was that she won both of these challenges and could really make it like a callback full circle moment. And I think it could have something to do with that as a viewing community, but I think if you even compare the reaction to that callback in the general community as to like other callbacks from other returning players, like they've been mostly similar. So I don't know how much of that has to do with like differing fan reception between the two.
Definitely a nice moment, though. It was a feel-good moment when we saw that. I don't know if it's my favorite challenge celebration, but it's there.
It's not going to be up there for you. I think I only like it because it is the callback. If she would have just, like I said, if it would have been the one time, like, not that notable of a moment. But because it happened the second time, and because that second time meant so much to her game, that's why it's a big moment for me. Also, probably some recency bias. This season just happened. It's something that was fresh in my mind. I wasn't going to put anything from Island of the Idols on this list for obvious reasons.
What do you mean? That idol hunt at the Final Five was fun.
It was fun, but there was a lot of problems with that season.
Hey, remember when Kelly got idled out, or not idled out, voted out with 2 idols in her pocket? Yeah, great moment, right? Nah, fuck Island of the Idols. I hate that season. I really do.
Well, that season was a lot.
Good characters ruined by one.
I know. It had such great potential, but I have enjoyed watching them and everything they're doing post-game and in the community. And I hope that it doesn't damper their chances of getting asked back for returning seasons. Because a lot of these people really do deserve to come play again.
Jamal, Janet.
Jamal. I love Jamal so much. He's great. I need more of his voice in the world right now, too. I think he is the exact person we need to talk through all the issues going on in our country right now. He just needs to become an educator for the universe.
Yes, I agree with that. He needs to be a public voice in that way.
But, you know, that's how it is. But yeah, Jamal, Janet, Kelly, although I don't think Kelly will come back to the show.
Here at our podcast, we do not stay on topic at all.
No, not at all. But yeah, Dean would be another great choice to come back. Anyways,
I wouldn't mind a lore in return. However,
your number 16.
My number 16. Just checking at my list. Yep. My number 16 is the Final 7 Tribal Council at Survivor, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
What
council is this? I don't remember it.
So, this one, I just thought had so many great moments, and throughout it was so good. It's definitely one of the more memorable Tribal Councils in my mind. Probably in my top 3 or 4 Tribal Councils as a whole. I've got some other Tribal Councils throughout this list. However, this one I thought was special because you see things like the Ben Bomb, where he goes, grabs that idol, puts the fake idol around his neck. Yeah, the Ben Bomb was great. Maybe the first time, but the other times was kind of, okay, shut up, Ben. However, definitely the first time I was like, let's go, Ben. That's awesome. Then you get the split idol with Lauren and Dr. Mike. And Dr. Mike says, I've always wanted to do this. Throws in the fire. It keeps going right here. And then when Ben pulls out that idol, what happens? They debate, is it fake or not? The whispering begins. And this was back when whispering was really cool. Remember, this is one season after Game Changers when it first came into existence. Whispering at Winners at War, I was like Denise, like, can we just shut up already? But this time, whispering was awesome. And I remember just saying, oh shit, they're up. And then we go through, and the idol was fake, but Ben had another. And he brings it out, and all 6 votes against Ben are nullified, and he gets the sole vote to evict Lauren Rimmer. Perfect. Awesome tribal council. Really enjoyed it all.
I think that's a great pick. I did not include anything from Heroes, Healers, Hustlers on this season because I don't really remember anything that happened during that season. In fact, and also, like, why would I have rewatched it by this point? I remember I watched Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. I didn't really care about any of the characters, and nothing really stood out after the fact, except for, like, Ben having PTSD from the fire. Like, that's
you like Devin.
I do, but, like, what stands out about Devin? Like, nothing. Like, he's kind of boring. Like, he's a cool dude, but he's kind of boring.
He's just a cool dude, good player.
Yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with him, but there's nothing, like, super right about Devin either.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's a fine season. That's a great moment from that season, but it's not one that I remember very much.
Yeah.
I do remember Mike with the fake idol. Oh, not even with the fake idol, with the shell. Also, why is that the one thing that Mike has always wanted to do is throw an idol in the fire? Like,
it's not throwing an idol in the fire, I don't think. I think it's throwing someone else's idol in the fire.
Like, when has that ever been, like, a Survivor? Like, that doesn't happen, really, on Survivor, so why was that, like, his dream? Like...
Maybe it's because nobody had ever really done it before.
It's the humor of that, and it's very Mike to be like, I've always wanted to do this. Like, it fits in his character very well, but it's also a very strange thing for him to be like, I've always wanted to do this, when it's literally never been done, and I've never heard any other Survivor person be like, this has been one of my goals, to throw someone's idol in the fire. Like, it's a very weird goal to have. But still a great moment, great choice, especially for what you value more, and that's strategy first, character second.
Yes.
And having the character support the strategy, whereas I am more about the character and the strategy supporting the character.
Mm-hmm.
But totally understand it.
Yes. And I also want to make something clear. Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, not one of my favorite seasons. No. I thought it was okay in Survivor standards. I enjoyed it because it's Survivor. However, if I'm given the choice of seasons to rewatch, there's probably about 30 other seasons I'd rather rewatch.
Yeah, it's definitely a bottom tier season.
It's not bottom tier, it's above bottom tier, but just the next step above bottom tier. It's not like Redemption Island, One World, Island of the Idols. It's not around there.
I guess that's fair. It's not, like, actively bad, but it's also not good either.
Yes.
It's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those seasons that's just there.
Mm-hmm. But it was such a great moment. Such a great tribal council.
It is a really good moment. I fair point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right, what do you have at 15?
Yeah, so my 15, we're going back to some more strategy, and it's in Game Changers, Sarah voting out Sierra to get the legacy advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I think great moment, especially because the legacy advantage did not work in Millennials Gen X. It made more sense as a concept in that season, but it was executed much better. It was used better by the players in Game Changers, and damn did Sarah really outplay her hand on that moment. Mm-hmm. It changed the course of her game, because wasn't she going to be voted out at Final 6?
Yep, she had 3 votes in the urn. A lot of people don't know that, because the votes weren't read by Jeff, but she had 3 votes in the urn. It was a winning move, if you think about it.
Exactly. It was her winning move, really, to get Sierra out, and it really shows Sarah as a game player. And her character, really, especially her character that she was really playing in that season, the top-turned criminal. And that is a criminal move right there, stealing that legacy advantage right out from under Sierra, without Sierra even thinking that it could have been Sarah. That was her demise.
Yes.
Fantastic moment from Game Changers that actually had to do with strategy. because Game Changers has some questionable character moments in it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. This moment, it's not a moment that I necessarily think greatest moments, but when I think Sarah, I think of this moment. I'm just like, yo, that's badass. I just think about how you're able to vote someone out, but still convince them to give you stuff as you vote them out. It could be the reason why fire tokens are a thing, if you think about it.
I do think that the legacy advantage was kind of the precursor to fire tokens.
Mm-hmm. And we see that now. We saw that in Winners at War. Everybody was thinking about how they could vote someone out, but still get their fire tokens. And it was all about that management because they weren't sure what it would end up being. It didn't amount to much having a lot of fire tokens, except for Natalie. It mattered for people on the edge. It did not matter for people much on the island. But it was still through their minds, and they were thinking about it the whole game. Obviously, fire tokens need tweaking, but this was the precursor to that. This is when you see someone, and it could also be an example of what could be good jury management. So maybe we've seen it in past Survivor before, but this was a concrete display of not making someone mad and still being their friend while still voting them out.
Exactly.
And it was a perfect moment for that.
Exactly. It's by far the most concrete jury management moment that you can point to.
I disagree with that, but...
I don't disagree with it because it's very concrete and you can see the evidence of it immediately. It's not something that, and it's also not obviously pandering. Mm-hmm. It's jury management without pandering, because a lot of times
I agree with the not pandering.
A lot of jury management moves are a little bit more pandering, and if you have a smart jury if the person you're trying to manage on the jury is smart, they'll see right through the pandering.
Yes.
And this was one of the best concrete examples of jury management that can be very obviously seen by the viewer. No one has to explain it to them. It's very clear. And it's not pandering.
Yes. I like it. I like the choice for sure on your pick. However, I will say go rewatch Cook Islands and you'll see some real good jury management.
That's fair. I've rewatched the pre-merge and the first part of the merge, but I haven't finished the season all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that Yul is very much the jury management king. That's his biggest skill. Well, maybe not his biggest skill.
Not his biggest skill, but he's known for it.
Skills. Yeah, I think it's in his top two. Because I think if he wouldn't have managed the jury as well, Ozzy has a good chance of winning that season.
Yes.
So it really is one of his top two, because the other two was the other one had to do with convincing people to join his side, even if it's not their best interest. Anyways.
The mob boss.
Exactly. Which is weird to think of Yul as a mob boss.
It is, but he was a mob boss.
Think of him as a mob boss.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Rob father right there.
Yes.
But what's your number 15?
My number 15 is the Aussie blindside in Micronesia. And the reason for that is Aussie was a total king of Survivor at this point. Aussie was looked at by every single fan, and you could see it from future players. I mean, look at people like Joe Anglim. Look at people even Eric, who was on that season. Yeah. They looked up to Aussie like he was something incredible, like he was Superman. And Aussie has all the momentum in Micronesia, and people are thinking, yeah, Aussie's going to take this one. This is his time. He's finally getting it. He's going to get his bread. He's going to get his win. He's going to do it right now. And he's so confident. I've got Amanda on my side. I'm with Parvati and James. Cerise listening to me. Eric's my little puppet. Blindsided. Just like that. And it really felt like a king of Survivor was getting blindsided And you don't see that much. You don't see these people that are perceived as the almighty guy in Survivor, the almighty woman in Survivor. You don't see them get blindsided much. I can't name another time where it was such an epic blindside with someone who was so prominent at the time. And that's why I love that moment.
Yeah, I think that's that was very close to being on my list. I will say, definitely highly considered it. I think that the only part of your argument that I disagree with, I think that the blindside of Ozzy was one of the biggest blindsides of like a existing player, but that was also like a player that had an existing following in Survivor, so a returning player. But yes. I don't know why I said it so complicated. But even if you look to James's blindside, the literal season before with 2 idols, like that's another big Survivor player. And James was a fan favorite in China. People really enjoyed James. And for him to be, if he wouldn't have been voted out at that point, there's a very decent chance that he makes it to the end and wins. And I think that there's an argument to be said that there were a lot of other moments that are very similar to the Aussie blindside in that they're taking out a very large player with an idol in their pocket, and it's a very epic blindside. But I do think that the Aussie one is particularly very good. It's one of the earliest examples of it, and it's really well done play by Parvati.
Well, my response to what you just said is Ozzy was massive. That was the point of it. It was how massive he was, and he returned as a fan favorite and was more massive, and clearly more massive than James. People were looking up to Ozzy on the island. They weren't looking up to James like that. They were looking up to Ozzy.
Yeah.
And you say the James blindside would be another example of that. Well, I've still got lists to go.
Fair. I'm just saying. It was the way that you said it, where you're like, "This is the." I'm like, if you just look at one season arcs, I don't know if I agree with that. But no, Ozzy was definitely the biggest player that season. He definitely had the biggest following of any Survivor player at that time. Wasn't bigger than Colby, but who can be? Who can be bigger? Well,
or Rupert.
Rupert. We both realized at the same time. Rupert can be bigger than Colby, but Rupert and Colby are definitely that like top tier of fandom in Survivor.
I'd say Ozzy joined that at that time.
I don't know if Ozzy would join that tier just because viewership numbers weren't quite the same.
That's true.
So there's not the same number of. He probably, when it comes to percentile, I would agree with you, but when it comes to just sheer numbers, I think that he's in a separate tier.
Yes, agree with that. So what do you have at 14?
14. So we're going back to Millennials versus Gen X.
Jeez, we got a lot of Millennials versus Gen X on here.
This is one of my favorite moments of all time. I really love this moment. I couldn't place it higher just because it isn't like the biggest moment, but it's the Michaela boot in MVGX. I love Michaela. I think Michaela is a fantastic character. And that really was a fantastic tribal council moment. I've never seen anything like it like before then, really, and I haven't seen anything like it afterwards, except for Michaela trying to do similar things in Game Changers. That was her trying, though, so it doesn't count. But that boot, the tenseness of the whole situation, every facial expression, Millennials versus Gen X is, as a whole, underrated for the facial expressions of everything. Winners at War, people talked about facial expressions a lot, but Millennials versus Gen X is chock full of good facial expressions. Brett's reaction to everything going on. Just the fact that Jeff paused and let this play out as
yes, that's a good point.
Has he ever paused while reading the votes before to let something happen?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like, he's definitely stopped while reading the votes for other reasons. Like who is this vote for? A good example of that.
Thailand.
But like, it's unprecedented. Nothing similar to it has happened since then. And the entertainment value of it is really, really amazing.
I agree. I'm going to withhold myself again because this is on my list.
Oh, I did not expect this to be on your list.
It's
wow.
Up there.
Now I feel bad for putting it at 14. I should have put it higher.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's so low. Well, it turns out mine is higher than that.
I'm mad at myself now. Damn it. Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear where you have it on your list, but I'd love to hear what your number 14 is.
All right. So my number 14, we're going all the way back to Survivor Borneo. All the way to the beginning. And I know what you're thinking. It's the Snakes and Rats speech. No, it's not. I think that moment is very overrated, actually. It's iconic, sure. Not one of my favorites. It's just, okay, that's another jury speech. I've liked other ones more since then. And ultimately, the final tribal council, not one of my favorite parts of the game to watch, personally. But mine is when Richard Hatch dips from the final immunity. And this was when I thought the game was starting to get to a point of next level strategy. This was the first time we'd really seen. We'd seen an alliance form. We had seen people run through that. We hadn't seen an instance where someone is actively not winning a challenge to not get blood on their hands and make sure they can seal the victory. I'm sure Richard Hatch could have stood there for a long time. He might not have won, but he could have stood there a lot longer. And then you hear him explain everything to Jeff. You hear him explain everything to Jeff as he's sitting there eating an orange or whatever. And you just hear how incredible this game can get. And you start to realize that in this moment, even back at the time, Survivor has so much more evolution. And it will constantly evolve because of people like Richard Hatch, who are thinking at that next level. And it's something that makes me think that I can always be excited for what's going to happen in the next season of Survivor. How the game is going to get even bigger. Sure, it happens a lot more in All-Star seasons. I think of Second Chance as one of the biggest evolutions in gameplay. However, this was one where we realized that the game can evolve at all. And that's why I think it's super special.
Yeah, I am in 100% agreement with you. I think if I would have made a list of what I felt like were objectively the top 10, 20 greatest moments of Survivor history, that would be on there.
Yeah.
I made my personal favorite.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is favorite. I'm not saying objective best either. Because I'm going to have some controversies later on. Get ready.
Okay, perfect. But that's why I don't have it on my list, is really nothing in Borneo sticks out to me, just because I didn't watch it until probably after Ghost Island. That's when I kind of started to rewatch seasons. And so I was so used to the pace of New School, and I'm just used to the pace of modern reality TV. So going back to Borneo was a very weird feeling, and nothing real. Obviously, the Snakes and Rats speech stands out when looking back, but I don't. It's fine. I'm with you. I think it's a very overrated moment in general, and I do think that this moment is the one that stands out to me the most as well from Borneo, and I think it's a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
Great choice.
All right. Yeah, I think that's about where I stand. It's just, I like Borneo as a change of pace, but I'm not the biggest Borneo stan where I'm not all into the nostalgia of, oh, it was the first season, oh, Richard Hatch and Rudy. It's like, I love characters on the season. Suhawk. But yeah, I just think this was the moment that stuck out to me as the first time in Survivor where the game was played at the next level.
I agree. I think that's a great choice. 100%.
So what do you have at 13?
13. So we're going back to what I feel is the season that got me back into Survivor, which is not Millennials versus Gen X. That season would be Second Chances, actually, is the season that got me back into the franchise. And it is the Final Six Tribal Council, where no votes were valid. I was going to say cast, but they were cast. But no votes were actually valid at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Obviously, iconic moment. Like I said, it was the first season that I really got back into Survivor, so it was really exciting to me to watch live. I was really amazed by it. I thought it was a really cool moment. Probably not screamed, but I got really excited watching it. I would scream if I were me watching it now live.
Yes.
I would scream, but not then. I wasn't that into Survivor then. But just, I don't know what else I have to say about it. I think it's a really fun moment. I think it's a really cool game moment. I'm happy it hasn't happened since then. Mm-hmm. I don't think it needs to happen very often, but it was a very cool moment in the time it took place.
Well, it's kind of an interesting coincidence because my number 13 is also Final Six no votes in Cambodia. So let's just go ahead and get this one out of the way.
Perfect!
We didn't actually plan for this to happen at all. We didn't even talk about, like, pre-podcast, like, what are we going to do if we both have the same moment at the same number? Anyway, the reason why I love this moment is just because it was something that you've never seen. And I'm not sure if you remember when we were watching as a family, I was screaming at the TV like, what is going on? And I had to think things through. It was the one time as a fan where I feel I've had to go and think about the Survivor rulebook and think about what happens in the revote, and then when it's a tie, what's going to happen. I remember before Jeff pulls out the chalkboard, which was incredible, when Jeff's pulling out the chalkboard, I was explaining this to our parents, and I was saying, so here's what's going on, okay? So Jeremy and Kelly are safe. Spencer has immunity right now. Now, Tasha it's Keith and Kimmy. I forget who was voted for. I just know Kimmy went home in the end. It was between Kimmy and Keith. And
yeah, I can explain that to you.
Yes.
Kimmy and Tasha, then on the revote, they split the vote.
That's right, and then it was, they had to...
If they went to Rocks, it was going to be Keith.
Yes, it had to be unanimous. Yes.
Then Tasha home, so it was between Kimmy and Keith.
Yes. And it was just so incredible, and it was another moment where I felt that this game will never fail to amaze me. And this was a moment that absolutely amazed me. I was out of my seat. I was screaming at the TV. Like you said, I'd imagine I was screaming at the TV if I would have been a bigger fan at that point. I was that fan screaming at the TV right next to you in the living room. Yeah. And I just remember that moment so vividly. It was awesome. There's nothing like it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was probably the first time I was not annoyed at you getting excited while we were probably. I don't remember that far back, but probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so good. You've never seen anything like it since, well, the Cerevo in Game Changers.
That one's a little different, though, because it's not like, different. Keith's going home, or...
It's similar in experience, but it's a worse moment. Mm-hmm. I think, at least. I hope it's not above this moment on your list, either. But, so good. I'm really happy that happened. Jeff doing the chalkboard thing was surprisingly epic at the watch finale. Like, who would have thought that would have been kind of epic for Jeff Probst to come out and literally just start to teach people? Like, that's not what I expected Survivor to be, but it was super cool, and I was super here for it. And that moment maybe single-handedly got me back into Survivor.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing that I like to think about, just as thinking about this moment more, there were some other good moments where nobody really expected Jeremy and Kelly to both have an idol. They'd already played one previously in the game, And that's when a lot of people think, oh, well, there's no way they have another. And they especially don't think that there were 2 idols in the game at that point.
Yeah.
And then you get other things where Jeremy's finding out that Kimmy flipped, and Jeremy's such a loyal player where he's just mad and he's saying, oh, hell no, Kimmy, you know? And people thought, oh, he's cocky, he's being a dick in that moment. But I saw it differently. I saw it as Jeremy's mad that who he thought was a close ally of his turned on him and almost cost him the game in that moment. Because imagine if Jeremy does not play the idol there.
Exactly.
And Kelly does. Jeremy's idled out of the game and with an idol. That would have been incredible. But that didn't happen. So that was such a big play right there. Just Jeremy playing the idol. Because that is what forced the Tribal Council to get to that point.
Yeah. Was Jeremy the first person to play the idol, or was it Kelly?
Ooh. See, I rewatched Second Chance not too long ago.
You don't ever think of that when it comes to the move.
I think Kelly played the idol first.
I think so, too. Because I don't think Jeremy would have played his idol unless Kelly played hers.
Yes.
But because I was about to say, I was about to make a point of, I think that Jeremy's best skill in the game is not that he's such a people person, is that he knows when he's in trouble and will do what he can to get himself out of it.
Well,
he's very self-aware of his position in the game. But I don't think that's as true.
He was self-aware post San Juan del Sur.
I agree with that. I think he needed to get voted out the first time in order to do it. But I also think San Juan del Sur, there wasn't really that much he could have done to prevent him going home. Like, he was going to go home in that position regardless.
Yeah. Well, he got too powerful, and that's when he thought about having meat shields. And that's been a big evolution in Survivor strategy, too, ever since Jeremy popularized that in Second Chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second Chance, great season.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing season.
Potentially in my top 5. It's that good.
I would agree with you. Although my top 5, like my overall list, is shorter because I haven't watched all the seasons. But it's definitely in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got at 12? Because we got 13 out of the way right there.
Yep. 12. I literally just have written down. I think it's more fun if I just share what I have written down.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Garcia. Billy Garcia.
Oh, man.
I could just say as a character, but really Billy Garcia as a character is just this one moment. And it is Candace, love at first sight. And that moment is ridiculous. It's one of the most ridiculous things that has happened on Survivor.
Yeah.
There's been more ridiculous, but they've been mostly from seasons I haven't watched recently, i.e. Shane Powers.
Yes.
And,
there's a lot of insane moments throughout Survivor that you probably don't remember.
That was a very exciting time in Survivor. I'd argue like seasons 12 through 16, because there was just a lot of crazy people on Survivor who did a lot of crazy shit.
Yes, absolutely. They casted more for characters at that point.
That was a big character time, and I think those are the most successful seasons when they cast 4 characters, because David versus Goliath, they casted a ton of great characters. And that's one of the best modern seasons. They gotta keep casting for people as opposed to trying to change the game too much. But that moment is amazing, and it required no change in gameplay whatsoever. It was just a character moment.
Yes.
And it is the only reason Billy Garcia is known now, and it will live forever in infamy, and it is... They couldn't have scripted a better moment.
Yeah.
Happened.
I wonder how production felt at the time. They're thinking, huh?
Love to talk to whoever the story producer was for that tribe. Like, whoever the primary story producer was for the Hispanic tribe. I want to know everything that they have to say about Billy Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And he's still as crazy as he was back then. He's still a fucking weirdo, and I am here for it. And I love Billy Garcia.
We love Billy Garcia on this podcast.
We are Billy Garcia.
Come on.
We stand Billy Garcia in this household, and you have to as well.
Yes. Yeah, I just think it was so absurd, and it still sticks out to me as one of the most absurd moments I've ever seen on Survivor. So I don't blame you for putting it on the list at all.
100%. It's beautifully absurd. It fits in with absurdist reality TV, which Survivor usually doesn't. Survivor takes itself very seriously, but this is a moment that even the most serious of shows could not have taken seriously. It's perfect. It's everything.
It is. It really is. Totally agree with you. So, my number 12, we're going back to a bit more of a gameplay thing, but I think this one moment definitely rose in my head because of the implications behind it because of past gameplay. And that's when Denise gets the Queen Sandra out. I think that this moment was so well calculated by Denise, where she's thinking, well, if I get this idol, that's good. However, I don't want to lose my fire tokens here. Can we do 1 and 1 so I can keep 1 fire token? Sandra says, sure, that works for me. Good deal. And then Denise gets her idol, plays it on herself, plays her other idol on Jeremy, which I think was a smart play, by the way, because a vote very easily could have been thrown on Jeremy by Sandra, because Sandra would have been fine with voting for Jeremy. And Denise didn't care if Tony went home at that time. She cared if Jeremy went home. Mind you, that would have changed later on in the game. But then Denise says, you know what, I'm going to keep my fire token out of this. Votes out the Queen. That is a big move. And if you want to say Denise isn't making big moves, she's subtle about it. She made a big move right there. She said, I can make big moves in this game. And I'm not just a social player like you think I was in Philippines. I can do a lot of things. Mind you, my social skills are my best skills. I'm very empathetic. I know who I am as a person. But I got this side of me too. And this was an epic way to end Sandra, by the way. Sandra made what people could think of as a mistake, but I saw it as Sandra playing aggressively, which was something she didn't do a lot. She did it a bit more in Game Changers, but she really kicked it up right here, where she played aggressively, and this is the way she went out. So I just thought this was an awesome moment all around, and it was my favorite moment from Winners at War.
I think that's a great choice. I definitely considered putting this on my list, and I don't know why I didn't. There's not much logic to my list, as we've said multiple times. But I think this move gets even more impressive when you look at some of the post-game information that's come out, where apparently, like, Denise and Sandra were really tight before the game, because that was maybe the phone call that Sandra felt most comfortable with, which shows Denise's social skills, is that she can build such a tight bond with someone literally over the phone, where they feel completely comfortable and like they don't even have to talk going into the game, that they are set. They are the best allies throughout the entire game. And I think that people are going to be results oriented when it comes to Sandra's move. I think that this move is the better version of JT giving the idol to Russell, because she at least knows who Denise is. She knows how Denise operates, and she has at least some sort of working relationship with Denise, unlike JT and Russell, where JT literally knows nothing about Russell and gives him an idol and gets no reward from it either. There's no fire tokens involved. There's no tangible... obviously, there's, like, if the plan works, like, then the heroes have the numbers.
That's
like,
the reward.
That's the reward. But, like, it's definitely the better version of that move, and it's very similar to that move. But, great moment. It's even better the more information we learn about it. Denise is amazing. Yes. I love Denise.
I agree. So what do you have at number... Where are we at, 11 now?
Yes, we're at number 11. So, I have... To preface this, one of my favorite seasons of all time is Token Genes. Tocantins, another great example of just amazing characters. Some of the best characters that have ever come out of the show. And that brings me to this moment, which is Coach finally going to exile. The build-up to it is amazing, of just JT and Steven talking trash when it comes to Coach and how he's basically just weak, he's lazy, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's full of it, and they want to send him to exile, not out of strategy, but out of spite. They just really want him to go to exile. And then Coach outcoaches himself through this scene.
Yes.
He does more than anyone needed or asked for, but it's what we deserved. And he goes full Coach, and it's perfect. It's, once again, a great character moment. It's Coach automatic, at least Coach 1.0 makes literally anything better immediately. Coach 2.0 and Coach 3.0, they're not great, but Coach 1.0 is one of the best reality TV characters of all time.
Yes.
He's probably in my top 10. Coach 1.0 is in my top 10 reality characters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Coach at his peak.
Yes.
And I'm here for it.
I totally agree with you. It is Coach at his peak. Just probably the most memorable exile visit in Survivor history.
100%.
And this was the time where we knew Coach was a lunatic.
Oh, yeah.
We knew Coach was awesome as a character, but we didn't really know Coach. And this just furthered that point. It didn't make us learn to know Coach anymore. It just made us think, what's wrong with this dude?
Like I said, he outcoached himself.
Yes.
He outdid it. He outdid everything his character... They could not have written a better character than Coach. Mm-hmm. You can't write that.
I really want
TV writing.
I really want a movie kind of like Borat, where Borat travels through America, but it's just Coach.
That would be good.
And it's unscripted, and it's just Coach traveling through America, probably with that walking stick that he had on Exile Island. And then he's walking over, and he's just meeting people, and he's narrating the whole thing. And it would just be an incredible documentary. Can we make that happen?
CBS All Access could do so much with Coach if they just got him on a damn contract. Even if you just look at what he does now, is like he did a full 1 hour long podcast on the treadmill. He recorded an entire podcast from his treadmill. Why would he do that? There's so many things about Coach where you're like, why? Why are you like this? And we've never learned, and I don't care. I love the mystery of why is he like this?
Yes.
And all of the Coach wannabes that they casted after him, most notably Philip Shepard, are so much worse than Coach. Coach, because
nobody's Coach.
Nobody can beat Coach. The archetype of Coach is crazy person that no one knows why they're this crazy. They shouldn't be this crazy. But no one's ever going to do a better job of that archetype than Coach.
Yes. Fully agree.
They will always try and find a new Coach, but they will never find someone who is as good as Coach.
Yes. Nobody will ever match Coach.
Nope.
Nobody. He's unique. He's one of a kind.
Exactly. Well, what's your number 11?
So, my number 11, I think we'll end this off here because this is getting pretty long at this point, and then we'll continue with the top 10 after in a later podcast, make this a two-parter. But we brought this up earlier. It's James getting blindsided with the two idols. And this was originally, until one season after, the biggest blunder in Survivor history. It was monumental how much this moment meant for Survivor China. It was monumental how much it meant for James's legacy. It was monumental in terms of big blunders. It was part of the reason why Survivor Ghost Island exists in the first place.
Oh, 100%.
And I just think about this moment with my mind, and I'm thinking, I'm the biggest physical threat out here. I'm at the final 7. I have 2 idols. I can't play another idol after the final 5, so I have 3 more chances. I'll probably win immunity in one of those, because I'm the biggest physical threat out here. I'm going to play my idol right here. That's immediately what I would think, even if I don't need it. Mm-hmm. However, James had different ideas. I'll play it at Final 6. I'll play it at Final 5. He has no game agency. He doesn't realize what's going on. He doesn't realize that people are conspiring against him. And he gets blindsided, and there's the iconic shot at the end in his exit confessional with the 2 idols in his hands. It'll never get any better than that. I think that's one of 2 times that people have been voted out with 2 idols in their pockets, and the other one just sucked. So this is the one I remember.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the other one.
Yeah, it's just incredible how much this happened, how this even happened in the first place. You think about how Todd gives him an idol. He doesn't have to use it. He has to grab another idol because he's just like, you know what? I see it at the camp. I recognize it.
Yep.
And this all happened, and it became one of the biggest blunders in Survivor history. Incredible moment. Defining moment of Survivor China. Defining moment for James Clement. One of the best Survivor characters ever. One of the biggest fan favorites ever. Can't say enough about it.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. The only reason that moment is not on my list is I have not watched all of China.
Are you kidding me?
I have not. I mean, when it aired live, I probably did, but I have not. I started China. I don't remember where I left off. I think I hit the merge, but quit somewhere around the merge.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have anything to do with China why I stopped watching it. I just think I stopped having time and then forgot that I had and so I started a different season. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's the literal only reason that's on my list. That's not on my list is because I haven't actually watched that episode in full. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that 100% would have been on my list. It is definitely in my greatest 20 moments of all time. It's one of the most consequential moments of all time. I think that scene of him holding those 2 idols is so much more impactful because of the way the idols were hidden that season. The fact that they're so big and bulky makes it even more apparent just how big of a mistake he made. It's the only reason this happened is because James was not casted because he's a player. He was casted because he is another one of those dudes where you're like, where did you come from? Why are you the way you are? Like, how are you a gravedigger? What brought you into that profession? Mm-hmm. And just, he's such an interesting dude. That's why he was casted, and he was barely playing the game. Like, he was just there. And you can't recreate that moment very easily. And I think the only reason it happened again was from those very specific circumstances of there was something outside of the game that the person who had 2 idols thought trumped whatever was going on in the game. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason it's happened again.
Yes.
But James is forever an icon now just because of that dumb move. Mm-hmm. But I love him all the same. And I'm still so happy that happened.
Uh-huh. I think it also says a lot about Todd and Amanda as players. Because mm-hmm. they really engineered that, and they made it happen. They were incredible players to come from Survivor China. And they were a good tandem as well throughout the season. And they loved James. You can tell that throughout the season. They had built a connection with James. They were really buddy up with him. But they knew this was their time to strike, and they had to do it. And then the fact that James doesn't see it coming, too, on top of that, just makes it all so grand. It was a good moment all around. It's not all about James. There's Todd and Amanda there as well.
Yeah.
So good.
It's such a fantastic moment, and I am a little sad that I disqualified myself from putting it on that list, but it's so good.
Yes. Well, thank you all for watching or listening to our podcast. We've got it on YouTube, we've got it on Apple Podcasts, and we've got those two media platforms to put this on for now. May have further in the future. Stay posted and make sure to get notifications from us, and we'll see you later. Any last words, Madison?
No, thank you guys for listening. This was a great time. Very excited to finish out the list another time. And thanks for listening. We hope you come back and listen to us some more. And let us know what you want to hear from us, too. Are there any top 10 lists that you guys are interested in? Are there any specific moments that you want us to delve more deeply into? Are there any other things that you'd like to hear us talk about? Let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. Please give us the feedback. And we enjoy that you spent part of your day with us. I fumbled on my words, but that's just a classic outro.